So I'll give you a little quick biography. You can have a seat. I'm going to introduce
Very
you.
quick bio,
Yes,
okay?
Very quick bio. This is Steve. Is that quick enough?
That's good.
So Steve is the president and CEO of Huntington Bank. And so like I said before, I was a part of the community benefit agreement process when Huntington Bank started their process some years ago. I think you're on your third community benefit agreement. And so that is a huge commitment. So we have some banks that they do one agreement and then we're done having a conversation. So we're glad that you're leading the way. So why don't we have a seat?
All right, Katie.
Steve graduated from Gettysburg College.
No, that'll put him to sleep.
No, we're not going to do that. Okay,
That's
so we're
right.
not going to put you to sleep. So we're
Let's
just
get
going to
into
jump. We're just going to jump right into it.
They wouldn't believe I graduated. I couldn't get into that school today anyway. Go ahead.
So why don't you tell us about your role and why you think banks should be a part of these community benefit agreements and why you decided to do that?
Well, I think fundamentally banks are at the intersection of commerce. Right? We take deposits, we make loans, we do lots of other things as well. The communities, I think, need responsible banks, and we in turn, because we're a community bank, only do well when the community does well, so it's symbiotic. I think the benefit of the CBAs, which we've come to learn, is very significant, and I don't know why other banks don't do them in multiples and why this isn't a process that's embraced. For us, when we started the first one, you'll remember, we were literally going year by year and looking to do more every year, but we didn't have a 5-year plan. And so consequently, we thought we were doing great, but we couldn't project what great might look like. If we really pushed ourselves, how much could we do? How much impact could we have? So that was an important lesson. Second was, we were doing great, but we were doing it with the same set of partners. We just do more with the same set of partners. The benefit of NCRC in terms of opening up many, many new possible partners for us was extraordinary. And so we do these listening tours every time before we do the CBA. We want to understand what the needs of the community are. And while we may know at a certain level what those needs are, we're not there every day. You guys are. You guys know it firsthand. We don't. So everything we do is through partners, with partners and through partners, by going through these rounds locally with NCRC partners. It informs ultimately what we do in the plan. I see Ernie Hogan here. And, Ernie's been a great part of Pittsburgh running PCRG now for multiple decades. If we didn't talk to Ernie, we'd be missing something vital to what we might do in the greater Pittsburgh community. So one, there's the benefit of the listening tours, the rounds, and for me it's very beneficial because I do them all. I think I've missed 1 or 2 meetings out of 50 or 75 meetings over the 3 years, or 3 times we've done this. And then that lets us help shape our programs. And we can talk about some of those programs if you want, but by learning firsthand what the needs are, by hearing that directly, it puts us in a much better position to engage and more effectively partner and create better and more significant results for the communities we serve. And ultimately, that's better for us.
Awesome. So you talked a little bit about being on your third plan. What motivated you to go to the second plan and then to the third plan?
Well, we did the first plan started in 2017. It was a 5-year plan. We completed it in 3.5 years. So when we completed it, we said, let's re-up. The first plan was $16 billion. The second plan then was, we wanted to do more, was $20 billion. And because we'd never done something like, we just didn't know how much we could do. So when we completed the first one in 3.5 years, it gave us a sense of what's possible, which we didn't otherwise know. That led to the second one at 20. And then we had this great opportunity to combine with another company. We acquired them, called TCF. They doubled our presence in Michigan, trebled it in Chicago, gave us new great markets like the Twin Cities of Minnesota and Colorado. And so that just gave us that much more opportunity. And the local community groups in those different markets also helped weigh in and inform the discussions we were having and the ideas that ultimately we came up with. A great example of that is a program we run called Lift Local. So Huntington is, by volume, the largest SBA lender in the country. We're one or two for the last, I don't know, almost a decade, but we only lend in our footprint. And so we do lots of business with small business. What we were missing, though, was neighborhood microloans. And that's what came out of this third round of listening tours. And so we put together, again, everything in partnership. We have a national partner, Operation Hope, John Hope Bryant's organization, and we worked for a year and a half, 2 years, tailoring a entrepreneurship program that they deliver. And then we find our local partners in our marketplaces that we take that program through, and the individuals that go through that program, if they're a startup, we want them to have an idea of what they're going to face by running a business. Project Hope does that for us. As they complete, then we go on to fund their loans. And these are, we absorb the SBA fees. These are loans anywhere from $1,000 to $150,000, no fee, low rate, can be long-term if that's what's expected, up to 10 years. So it really is cheap capital, because it's fixed rate, low fixed rate, fixed capital, fixed long-term capital. It's a great program. We started with $25 million. We've gone through that. We've got $125 million. It looks like we're going to complete that later this year. We'll then put another number on the program and try and do more. But it's really helpful. These are jobs in the neighborhoods. We were talking earlier, you heard about not having income in the neighborhoods. Well, one way to do that is to spur business in the neighborhoods, and that's what this program is designed to.
Awesome.
We wouldn't have done it without the listening tour.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that the community listening tours were so valuable. There are a number of people who have not been a part of the community benefit agreement process and a part of those listening tours. What would you say to a community member that wants to engage the bank? How would you suggest that they go about doing that?
Well, you can do it directly. The challenge we have is if everybody does it directly, we get flooded,
right,
and we can't respond. So the benefit of these tours are generally, I think there's been 12, 15, 20 plus organizations around the table. It's what NCRC does as the coalition, bringing lots of not-for-profits together and articulating for and with them what the needs are, whether it's a CRA proposed amendment or an otherwise, but you facilitate each of these as local meetings. So we get the benefit of being in with a dozen or 2 dozen organizations, many of whom we don't know or they don't know us.
Awesome. Well, you've answered a lot of my questions that I have.
Well, that's easy. Good.
List. Yeah, it's been pretty easy. Do you mind taking a question from the audience?
No, happy to.
All right. Can I get maybe one question?
I'm not going to be able to see hands raised. How are we going to do this?
Charles Harris. I'll repeat it.
The question was, if a group of nonprofits got together to propose a CBA, would the bank see that as a threat? I get that right? I don't think the bank, certainly we wouldn't. Everything we do is with partners. Happy to have a coalition of interests come together, but happy to be one-off either as well. I know, I've been around this industry for 40 years. I know many of my peers, not all of them, and I think most of them are very approachable. And I think they're people of good intent. And so some of us are just more comfortable getting into the neighborhoods and communities than others, but you learn. I didn't initially have this. It started 25 years ago in Philadelphia when I'd go around to the different neighborhoods in Philly. And we had some tough meetings in tough neighborhoods. But you learn. So if you assume good intent, then your efforts to outreach hopefully will be fruitful.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was a part of the Huntington Bank Community Benefit Agreement process. It was a really good process. And, you know, after that process, you all formed an advisory group that
We
you
did.
meet with on a regular basis. And I wasn't on that particular advisory group, but it was one of the ones that the community members spoke very highly of and thought that, you know, everyone at the bank was really engaged. Do you want to talk a little bit about that group and how you all
Sure.
work?
Another great benefit of our partnership with NCRC is our National Community Advisory Committee. And we meet 3 or 4 times a year, and we meet so we can learn. This is not intended to be sort of show me and how great are we. It's needs evolve. Frankly, right now needs are evolving with inflation fairly significantly. So what can we do better, differently? What are the new ideas? We only see what we do. You see what other banks do, as well as what the needs are. So we find these incredibly valuable sessions where we'll share, of course, but we also learn. And the exchange is very powerful and helps to further shape our agendas. So we're privileged. We have, I think, a dozen NCAC members on our advisory council, and some have been on since the inception. I can't quite see with these lights, but Ernie, is that you?
Yep,
So
that's
Ernie Hogan's been on for since inception, and I've known him for a couple of decades, and seen the great work he's done in many communities. But we have a lot of new friends and new advisors, and then we cycle a bit on the committee as well. So we always have some freshness about it.
Well, folks, that is a wrap. I want to say thank you so much, Steve. I know you've had a pretty busy day, but we really appreciate you joining us today. We hope that this was a helpful fireside chat for you all, just to hear a little bit from a bank leader about how they're engaging with the community. And as I mentioned before, Huntington has been a great partner and a great example of how community benefit agreements work, as well as how our stakeholders can engage with their financial institutions. So.